It looks like winter is about to arrive. The forecast is for bone-chilling temperatures over the next couple of days. We'll have the latest from Chief Meteorologist Chris Kuiper, and it was another deadly day on North State roads. Those stories and more on Action News Now. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Liza George. A chilling discovery tonight. Human remains are found in Yuba City. Could this be part of a ritual killing? Angela Hemphill has the details.
The people that live here just moved in, but if it wasn't for their dog, they may never have found what was buried in the backyard.
You're watching Action News Now.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us and Merry Christmas. Pope Francis didn't want just a commonly quoted Bible verse chanted as empty words on Christmas Day, the one about peace on earth. The pontiff told tens of thousands of people gathered in front of the Vatican today he wants the church to place the poor at the center. Alan Pizzi reports.
Christmas at the Vatican is full of color, pomp, and circumstance.
While here in the North State, Chico Catholics are embracing the Pope's message for a better world. Many residents attended church today at Our Divine Savior Catholic Church in Chico, celebrating the birth of Christ, and say this day has a special meaning because of Pope Francis's positive words. Francis held Christmas Mass in the Vatican to more than 700,000 people since being elected back in March. The Pope spoke about peace in the Middle East and Africa and called for peace in the world. Catholics we spoke to say Pope Francis has taken the role of being the people's Pope, and he is writing a new chapter in the Vatican. Chico Unified School District has confirmed they will be switching to a middle school model beginning fall of 2015, which means elementary will be K through 5 and middle school will be 6th through 8th grades. Action News Now reporter Brian Johnson tells us the details of these new changes.
It's official. In 2 years, Chico schools are moving to a middle school model.
A really bizarre accident happened in Reading this morning. A man drives his truck off an overpass onto Interstate 5. It happened around 8:30 a.m. A blue Ford F-250 truck launched off a northbound Hilltop Drive onto northbound I-5. Luckily, no other cars were hit, and the solo occupant of the truck, a 58-year-old white male identified as Jesse Robert Hatch of Anderson, sustained only minor injuries. Witnesses traveling southbound on Hilltop Drive at the time of the crash said the truck was going around 60 miles per hour when it flew off the edge. Upon investigation, Reading police confirmed that Hatch was driving under the influence of drugs. The number 1 lane of northbound I-5 was closed until around 10 a.m. in the area of the crash. The guardrail sustained damage on the side of the freeway, but police officials believe it kept the vehicle from traveling into southbound I-5 traffic as well. Good evening and thank you for joining us. So you've been hearing about this a lot the last couple of days. A Los Feliz coffee shop calling itself Dumb Starbucks has been closed tonight after the health department came in and shut the place down. Turns out there's more to this so-called coffee shop than its controversial sign. Adriana Weingold explains.
Rumors have been swirling for days. What is Dumb Starbucks?
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Liza George. Cecile Juliet has the night off. A second honey oil lab has gone up in flames in the North State, this time in Reading. A structure fire and explosion were reported just before 9:30 a.m. at the Trellis Village Apartments on Lawrence Road. Officials have confirmed that a honey oil lab was operating out of the garage of one of the units. The suspect was identified as 27-year-old Christopher Lawrence Hightower. All city fire crews responded where the unit was fully engulfed in flames. Several apartments were damaged, forcing nearby residents to evacuate.
If you've ever had a desire to be a race car driver or to improve your driving skills, the Mini Thunder in Willows may be a dream come true for you.
Action News Now reporter Liza George caught up with some Mini enthusiasts who were happy to share their story today. She joins us with more. Liza.
Thanks, Alan and Debbie. It was a perfect day for a drive around the track. Rick Carhart and I got a chance to ride along and see what all the excitement was about. In the largest gathering of Mini Coopers this side of the Sierra, hundreds of drivers from beginners to racing professionals come together to wear out some rubber.
an all-mini day. So we came up with an idea that we'd put together a track day. And the first day years ago was maybe 40 or 50 cars, and now we're 200 plus.
Mini Thunder is not just about racing. It's about improving your driving skills and meeting other mini enthusiasts.
Basic techniques of braking, turning, shifting, the real good quality things you should use in everyday driving.
People you meet, you all have that common element, and there's such an amazing group of people. So it's like family, literally.
And if you're a new driver, it can teach you valuable rules of the road.
And it actually makes you a better driver. A lot of people go, oh, I don't ever want to race, but actually being out on the track helps you understand where your limits of your car are.
You could never have been on the track before. They put a coach in the car, and they just coach you from your capabilities to your car's capabilities, and they just gradually coach you up.
And Mini Thunder is not just for the boys. It welcomes anyone with any interest in racing.
We just have a great group, and there are a lot more women out there, and it should be that way. Just come on out and have fun. It's not just for guys.
Though there are many racetracks across the United States, one thing everybody agreed on, Thunder Hills Raceway in Willows is one of the best.
In the event something ever happens, you have such great area to run off in case you end up going off track.
There aren't a lot of walls to worry about going into. So if you lose it, just don't fight the car, just go off in the dirt and
let it go.
Let it go.
Let it go. And why the Mini, you may ask?
Drive the Mini and you will know. There's that much fun.
It's like a roller skate and a go-kart, and that thing can handle. You can't explain how the car can handle.
It's the geometry of the way that they built the cars with all four wheels all the way on the corners. They drive like little slot cars, and they put a smile on your face.
And if you come out, you might even meet a local celebrity who comes from the early days of racing.
I started in 1962, so to give you some idea. It was a 1954 Cooper Norton Formula 3 car. Catati Raceway, which is up by Santa Rosa. In the early days of SCCA, that was their track.
Norman tells me they are going to come back to Willows again sometime this year. In the meantime, they are doing a Mini Takes the States this summer, where they cross from San Francisco and head east into Boston. And if you'd noticed, that was our own Rick Carhart that was riding in front of me in the Ferrari. For Action News Now, I'm Liza George.
Chris, despite the storm, though, California remains in an extreme drought, but the low water levels are actually helping some hobbyists.
As Action News Now reporter Liza George found out, one man's drought can be another man's treasure. She joins us now with more. Liza?
Hi, Alan and Debbie. The drought has held California in its clutches this whole season, and like you said, we did get a storm today, but there is one activity that is seeing this drought season pay off in gold.
Conditions are so low that normally the stuff that's under the water is now above the water and exposed, and you can go into the cracks and crevices and clean them all out and get the gold that otherwise I would have to have my wetsuit.
There's been a lot of people coming in with interest in finding gold in areas that they normally couldn't look at.
It doesn't take a huge investment to get started in gold panning.
It's real simple. All you really need is a gold pan and something to dig with and the gumption to get out there and have some fun.
But there are some things you need to know to be a good panner.
It's only proper mining etiquette that when you dig a hole, whether you're metal detecting or just out doing what I'm doing right here, make sure you fill your holes back in so somebody don't step in it and break a leg.
You don't have to be an expert to be a panner, but there is a technique to what some see as an art form.
Gold always goes into a slack area because gold is really, really dense and heavy. And what it'll do is when the water's blowing down through here, it'll get to a slack area, which would be behind this rock here, and the gold will drop down, and it'll stay right here. Okay, we'll go down here and pan out these concentrates. All right. A lot of people think you have to be really, really careful when you're panning, and right at first, when you're developing your technique, probably you do, but after you get a little bit efficient at it, it'll take a lot less time. Agitate the material up with my hands real good because gold's really heavy. It'll fall down quickly right to the bottom of the pan.
Panning can be done by anyone of any age, and what you find is yours to keep.
You can probably find in the neighborhood $20 or $40 worth of gold.
And you might learn a little bit of history in the process.
Orville stands for the city of gold. And that's why there's such a good gold rush history here, and the name reflects that.
While there may not be an end to the drought in sight, maybe, just maybe, you can find something to do that could be profitable and fun while the water levels are still low.
Mark is looking for any available property that can be donated to teach kids mining this summer, and he says that panning is very much a family adventure, and anyone interested, he would love to take them out on an outing. And if you want information on panning, we put a link on our website to Adventures in Prospecting Mining Supplies in Oroville. And one last thing I forgot to mention, only 20% of the gold in Oroville has been found, so there's still 80% left. I'm Liza George. Back to you, Alan and Debbie.
Well, this is not your average toy story. A lot of toys these days are made with vinyl and plastic.
We met one North State man who gets back to basics when it comes to making toys. Action News Now reporter Liza George joins us now to tell us the story of a toy maker who still loves to work with his hands. Liza.
Yeah, Alan and Debbie, I had the chance to meet an 83-year-old Clipper Mills man who is a Korean War vet and has fought wildfires in the North State for over 30 years. But his passion has always been his toy making.
Meet Don Roberts, who still loves to make toys the old-fashioned way, with his hands on a piece of wood. His passion for woodworking started in high school.
Well, the first thing I did was made them for my kids, and my kids kind of loved them, and so I found out which were good and which weren't good, because if they were able to break it, I knew it was breakable.
What started as a hobby to make longer-lasting toys for his kids turned into a small business.
In 1982, started working with it, and so I did that for about 20 years and went to outdoor craft shows where they made things, not just bought them. And it was kind of interesting doing that. Never made a lot of money at it, just kept me busy.
The toys Don makes are authentic, and he doesn't like to use materials that could harm a child.
I try to stay away from things like pins or needles or anything like that. Once in a while I'll use a screw for something like putting one of these things together, but other than that, everything is wood.
The craftsman works with gentle hands at a steady pace when putting his toys together. He bounces between his workspace in the garage and his shop in the backyard.
When did you put the shop in, since your wife
I put
kicked you
that
out
in.
of the garage?
Yeah, she kicked me out of the garage. That's where it goes. But anyway, I managed to put that in last year.
Quality of craftsmanship is important to Don. He makes everything the right way, the pioneer way.
I make patterns for everything I do, so I have the pattern, some way of making things like all this stuff has a pattern for it.
He doesn't think he will ever do this again full-time, but you can still buy his toys at One-Eye Jack's Market and Grill in the quiet, tiny town of Clipper Mills. But he says he thinks the art form is returning.
It's getting to be a better art now than what it was for a while.
Don has been married to his wife Loretta for over 35 years. They've raised 5 kids together, and they still enjoy each other's company, and they love to hang out with their dog Annie. For Action News Now, I'm Liza George. Back to you, Alan and Debbie.
Good evening, I'm Alan Marsh.
And I'm Debbie Cobb. A fast-moving fire burns more than 40 acres in a vacant almond orchard in North Chico.
Action News Now reporter Liza George is just back from the scene and joins us now from our Chico newsroom with the very latest. Liza.
Thanks, Alan and Debbie. Firefighters got the call around 2:45. The blaze ripped through an abandoned almond orchard on Orchard Blossom Lane and Nord Avenue in Chico. Plumes of black and white smoke could be seen for miles on Highway 99. 5 engines, including Butte Fire and Chico Fire, along with one dozer, contained the fire in about an hour and set up a fire ring to keep the high winds from allowing the fire to spread to local homes.
The ability for it to expand was minimal. We took a less aggressive approach and allowed the fire to burn itself out along some roads, and we were able to do some indirect firing to easily contain the fire.
All roads are still open. Fire crews are still on the scene trying to figure out the cause of the blaze, and will continue to mop up throughout the evening. Because California is in a drought, vegetation fires will become commonplace this season. For Action News Now, I'm Liza George.